I'm Becky. This is my husband, Jim. We've both believed in Jesus most of our lives. And as we've aged, we look back and we see all the times that the Lord intervened in our lives on our behalf, some that we are aware and some we didn't realize until years later. We want to share with you the miraculous ways that God walked us through last year. It started on Christmas Eve 2023, which fell on a Sunday. I got up. Jim was in the living room drinking coffee. I was in the bathroom getting ready for church and started to feel a little bit strange. The next thing I knew, I woke up on the bathroom floor. I walked to the bed, laid down. Jim walked into the bedroom. He was curious why I was laying down, and I told him that I had fainted. We had a discussion on whether or not to stay home or go to church. By that time, I was feeling okay, so we decided to go ahead and go to church. We went through all the Christmas activities, and at that point pretty much dismissed the fainting issue. But at the same time, I was also having ocular migraines, and they became more intense and more frequent to the point that Jim wasn't comfortable with me driving. In February, I went to my doctor. I told her about the fainting. I told her about the ocular migraines. And she decided, just as a precaution, she was going to send me to a cardiologist and she was going to order some tests. So we went for the test. She ordered MRIs of my brain, an MRA of my carotid arteries. And that was completed. Went to the cardiologist and he said that my heart was okay, everything checked out. Gave us some logical reasons why maybe I fainted. We were good with that and thankful that my heart checked. And about a week later, I received a phone call. Was my doctor with the test results. And she said that the MRIs of my brain were normal. So I'm thinking this is the all clear call. So I said, okay, great, thank you. And then the one word you don't want to hear following good news, she followed with, but the MRA of your carotid arteries show what is a potential aneurysm behind your left eye. Somewhat stunned, I asked her to repeat it, and she did. And I said, so what do we do now? And she said, I'm going to refer you to a neurosurgeon, and they should call you in a couple of weeks and set up an appointment. Well, Jim and I talked about it, and she did use the word potential, so that's the word we keyed in on. It wasn't anything for sure. All we could do was wait. But out of curiosity, I had not known anyone that had an aneurysm, wasn't even aware of what treatments that they had for aneurysms. I Googled treatment for aneurysms, and a video came up. It happened to be a Louisville neurosurgeon, and he was teaching other physicians surgical procedures for aneurysms. Very intelligent guy, very informative. I watched the entire video and felt good that there were multiple treatments for aneurysms and just kind of let that go. A couple of weeks went by, didn't hear a word from the neurosurgeon group. In my morning Bible study, I had the verse Psalms 27:14 as part of my reading. And it was, wait on the Lord, be strong, take heart, and wait for the Lord. Well, I just kind of took that was my verse that he had given me. And so that was the plan. Of course, we couldn't do much else but wait. Then as time went on and weeks passed, I still hadn't heard anything. No appointment set up. And again, curiosity got the best of me. I started going to Google. I started researching. The more I researched, the more information I read, particularly about the location of this aneurysm, the more alarming it was. I had fear creep in, panic set in, and my thoughts just became chaos. I started playing the what if game. What if this happens, or what if that happens? And it was just chaos. I was making lists for Jim in case something happened to me, things that I thought he needed to know. I was making lists for my brother because if something happened to me, it would be up to him alone to take care of my 93-year-old mother. And then one morning during my Bible readings, the verse Psalms 46:10 was one that I read, that I've heard my entire life, be still and know that I am God. But at that point, I knew and I felt that God was convicting me. I was off on my own data gathering mission. I wasn't waiting on the Lord. I was going off on my own, which was causing me total chaos. And also I realized that I had given an opening to the enemy, and he was going to use it if I gave him the possibility. So at that point, I stopped and prayed. I asked for forgiveness. I asked for wisdom to make good choices. I asked for discernment to know what was of God and what was not, and help with filtering my thoughts, to totally shut the enemy out of this. And I realized that through all of the data and information I was looking up, that was not going to make any difference at all. And the Holy Spirit just kind of nudged me that it wasn't what I knew, it was who I knew. And I knew the great physician. So at that point, for the first time in a while, I felt a calmness come over me. I knew that God was with me. I knew that he had given me the symptoms. I knew that he was going to walk me through this, and that my trust was only in him. He was in control of this situation. So at that point, God's peace was with me. Still hadn't heard any news from the neurosurgeon group. And one morning I woke up and I just felt a nudge that I was supposed to call. So I picked up my phone, I started to call my doctor, but I sensed, no, don't call that office, call the neurosurgeon group. So I hung up and I dialed that number. Well, a guy answered the phone and I explained to him the situation, and he said, well, hold on and let me go check it out. So he came back to the phone and he said, we do have your records and we did get the referral, but we only received the report from the test and we really need the images. But I'm going to go ahead and make an appointment for you, and you can go pick up the disc of the images and you can bring it with you to the appointment. So, and then come to find out the appointment he made was with the physician. I saw the video on Google, and that's who my appointment was with. And I thought at the time, God's timing is always on target. So we went, picked up the disc, we went to the appointment, and we were still always referring to this as a potential aneurysm. We were clinging to the word potential. So we sat there, waited. We were taken back into a room that probably had like 3 huge monitors. And the physician assistant walked in and said that the surgeon had been called away on an emergency, so we were going to have an appointment with her. She brought the images up on all these monitors, and she pointed to one of them and said, this is the aneurysm. And Jim says,
that's when it hit me.
The report said potential.
Yeah, potential. Don't ever use that word for anything. She pointed right to the aneurysm on the screen, and that's, I guess, that when it hit me face on that this is really going to happen. It hit me hard. I have an uncle who died of an aneurysm, brain aneurysm. Didn't know it at the time that he had it. So this is God putting it in front of us that here it is, and I got hit hard at that point. I had taken it home. I was having nightmares at night I'm a fixer. I like to fix things. and this is no way I can do anything at all to help her to fix this. I can't fix this. So it just blew me away. I started having nightmares, and I couldn't find peace, and she was seeing this in me, and she started praying for me, and the church started praying for us too. And I'll tell you what, the prayer team is amazing. So I finally come to peace with it, that this is in God's hand, because this has been months now already. We've got to this point, so He's going to take it through all of this. We see it's going to happen. And the prayers were great. Thank you.
So the physician assistant said that they needed more detailed images, and she ordered an angiogram. That took place the end of May. No problems, no complications, everything was fine. We went back to meet with the surgeon in June to go over the results. He went through the risk, which, it could rupture, there could be a brain bleed, it could cause a stroke, it could cause blindness. Mine was behind my eye. And then he went through the options that were available. But he also informed us that the results showed that half of the aneurysm was in the brain. So now we're dealing with brain matter. He told us we could wait and monitor and not do anything for now. He said there are several surgical procedures. He wouldn't know which one was required until he was actually in there. And then he looked at Jim, and I think he saw the apprehension. And he said, if this were my wife, I would want her to have surgery.
And he loved her. So
yeah, he specified. And I loved her, and I love her. So we decided on surgery. That was scheduled for September the 12th. So again, this was in June. We're back to waiting. So during that time, God just kept reassuring me. He was giving me every indication. He was in every detail of this from the very beginning, before we were even aware what we were dealing with. He was walking us through. He was speaking to me through my prayer time, through His Word, through worship songs. He was speaking to us through prayer in this congregation. People prayed for me, with me, over me. He was speaking to me through some of the sermons. Pastor Paul did a sermon series on Psalm 23, and that meant so much at the time. It just really touched me. Also, Pastor Paul sent a worship song to Jim, Sea of Victory, which I think he played every day.
Yeah. Put it on my list immediately. That helped immensely.
But it was so comforting to have that, and all of the support that we had and were surrounded with, and the encouraging words that we were given from text, cards, in person. It was really unbelievable, the support that we received. So September the 12th came, and I was ready. It had been 7 months from the time that we had been given the test results. The verse that God gave me, wait for the Lord, He meant it. But He had worked throughout that time on me and in every detail of the situation. So we left to go to the hospital, had to be there at 7. My confidence, my trust was in the Lord. I knew that He was there with us. Pastor Paul showed up at 11, and about, sometime at past 11:30, surgical nurses walked into the room, and they said, your surgery's been moved up. And they were in somewhat of a hurry because they try to keep this surgeon's schedule going constantly on track. And they were getting ready to push me out of the room, and Jim stood up and said, could we have prayer first?
We got to have prayer first. And these two nurses turned around, and the nurses' faces just lit up. Says, "We love prayer," and that just touched me right there. And they came back to the bed, and so they circled on one side, and Pastor Paul and I on the other side, with Beck sitting in the middle, and we had a prayer. Paul's prayer was beautiful, and I think that brought peace to all of us even then as we were going out of the room.
So I'm being wheeled down the hall, and I'm feeling peace, but the strange thing was I actually felt joy. And the song, See a Victory, was playing over and over in my head. I'm going to see a victory. I'm going to see a victory. The battle belongs to the Lord. I'm going to see a victory. And the next thing I knew, I was in ICU. And there was a nurse. Her name was Rachel. She just had the most soothing voice, and she was talking to me, trying to get my attention. And she was telling me, you need to lay flat, don't move, don't raise your head. And I'm realizing that I have tubes and wires and a pounding headache and attached to all of this stuff. And I'm thinking, I don't think I could move if I wanted to. And she was telling me that everything went well. She said, I know that you're attached to a lot of things here, but the surgery went well. You're doing very well. And she began to ask me questions. Do you know your name? Do you know where you are? Do you know why you're here? Do you know what year it is? And so then we started talking. And after a bit, she said, I'm supposed to be checking you for cognitive wellness, for any signs of stroke. It is so rare that I'm carrying a conversation on with the patient at this stage. And so then we started talking, and I was telling her how God had been involved. And he was in control of the whole situation.
You can read people's faces, and they moved me back into a little room so when the doctor came in, he could talk to me. When that doctor came through that door, you could see him light up. It's like he scored a touchdown. He was happy, and I'm thinking, oh, this may be good. So, and he come in, he said everything went perfect. I was able to feel the aneurysm, no problem. Said she won't be on blood thinners or anything. She'll just have to take the baby aspirin. She's good to go. And I asked him, I said, you've been doing this for a while. I said, you don't have many wins like this, do you? He said, no, I don't. I said, this is a good one for you too then. And he says, yes, it is. And I just thanked him. I said, that was just a wonderful thing to go through. So we had it defeated again here. So,
yeah. So, like I said, God was in every detail of this. He gave me the symptoms, which, by the way, once I had the angiogram, the symptoms were gone. I think because they were no longer needed. He gave me a doctor that ordered the correct test. He gave us an x-ray technician that had the expertise to see the aneurysm, a neurosurgeon that had all the skills necessary. He gave us nurses that believe in prayer. He has given us a loving and praying church that supported us throughout this. He's given me a husband who holds my hand during the good times and the bad times. And through it all, God reassured me and He drew me closer to Him. He turned fear into faith.
We made it.
He turned fear into faith. He turned chaos and panic into peace. He turned the unknown and uncertainty into trust. And He turned silence into praise.
And we've had a prayer team and a church that loves us, and we love y'all. Hang in there with all of us, and I know there's more out there that needs these type of prayers. Just know that the church loves you. We love you. Thank you.